Meredith here on the PlayStation Livecast, here with Luke Williams, who's the game designer for I Am Bread. I have so many questions about this game. It looks so fun.
Yeah.
Where did you come up with the idea to be bread?
It was, I don't know, I just thought it was an interesting concept of like, I think one time, I was just making toast. And I tend to use, that's what I use my bread for, straight in the toaster. And I thought, well, that's an interesting kind of premise of, if a bread always wanted to become toast, but then there was no toaster, because then you imagine like you're stuck in the garden, and you're this bread who needs to become toast. How on earth are you going to actually do it?
Yeah.
And then you kind of have to start thinking like a little bit like logically, how am I going to sort of create a heat source in this new location? And then the second side of it was, how do I like? What's an interesting way for bread to move? Like, how would someone expect bread to move? You'd kind of imagine it would be quite floppy and like sort of around on its corners and stuff. And so then it was like that challenge of then kind of designing a control scheme that actually did that and kind of worked, I suppose.
I want to live inside your imagination. I think it's a fascinating place.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at some gameplay footage right now. We have a driver in the back who's actually playing this. This is in real time.
So he's flopping around now with the Jenga that everyone has in their kitchens. I don't know what it's like over here, but in England, Jenga in the kitchen, every time, every time. And
he does also kind of slide and stick to stuff too.
Yeah, so the way it's basically controlled is the 4 triggers on the DualShock basically will grab with one of the corners. You can see they're kind of like they're assigned there, like L1 and L2 and stuff. And then by grabbing hold of those, you can then use the control stick to kind of roll and pivot around the bits that you've grabbed. And you can kind of grab in any combination. And it's all kind of physics-driven movement. So you kind of make up how you move around by yourself. Like maybe you're gonna like kind of just grab on one bit and spin the bread and then like launch it. Or maybe you're gonna like, just use one corner and kind of do this sort of like monkey bar style climbing. You kind of just make up your own sort of way of traveling around. And
I love the humor in the game too. On the fridge it says "I loaf toast."
Yeah, which
little punny, just little punny.
Which is actually the original name for the game was going to be Loaf Toast because you start the game as well, the entire premise of the game is you're a sentient loaf of bread. And every day, a new slice of that loaf comes to life and has the unwavering desire to toast itself. So
every level then is a different way for you to achieve making your heat source and becoming toast.
Yeah, and there's actually a full storyline there. I mean, so the game is actually, if you remember Surgeon Simulator.
Right.
This game is a prequel to Surgeon Simulator. And actually, the house that we're in right now is the house of the patient Bob in Surgeon Simulator. And I Am Bread is basically the events that lead up to him being on the operating table.
Wow. That's pretty deep.
So yeah, we really tie it all in together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, this is a slice of white bread that we're looking at here. Will there be other variations of bread in the game?
Okay, so what we're looking at right now is like story mode, which is the loaf of bread wanting to become toast. There are actually 5 other game modes in which you become other pieces of bread in their own kind of game modes. So we have the French baguette, who his goal is basically to trash as much stuff as possible and kind of like high score sort of like trashing simulator, I suppose. You then have the bagel, and he's basically speed running through the level.
Just like rolling around?
As fast as he can. And that's kind of like, again, it's using the kind of physics that we have. So if your bagel starts to kind of wobble a little bit, you're gonna be slower. So it's all about keeping like a nice smooth roll with the bagel.
Now he's on the frying pan almost here, but that's gonna get him cooked. That won't necessarily get him toasted?
Well, no, I mean, so he can go to the toaster.
Okay.
So right now he's trying to move this pan out of the way. It's quite big and heavy for a little piece of bread.
Toast. Yeah, a little slice of bread.
So he's turned that hob on. So the environment is all like really interactable. There's lots of little things you can play with and adjust and interact with. And there's always multiple methods of becoming toast on every level. So while the most obvious one in the kitchen is get inside the toaster, you can, if you wanted, like turn on the oven, turn on the hobs, and actually, so you can see there he's trying to turn the hobs there. So he's just turned on this one. And if he can just get this frying pan out of the way.
Oh, it's so close.
He'll be able to
I can see that this is going to be like a frustratingly delightful game. We're going to be like inching it along and be like,
You do see people, there he goes, he's chucking that out of the way. And
get on that burner.
So you should be able to get on the burner now and start to toast that side of the bread.
Yeah. Now, the bread never gets dirty when it's flopping all over in the kitchen.
It does get dirty. So basically, the entire game is like a game of the floor is lava. So you'll lose that ability if you do go on the floor. So you have this panic thing of like, get off the floor, get off the floor, like, and you got to quickly clamber up again. But there's other stuff as well. Like in the kitchen's quite kind of sanitary. It's the first level, so it's not as bad. There are some ants on the counter.
Okay.
The guy's not very hygienic, so a little bit of ants. You get ants on you. While there is extra protein there, it's generally considered to reduce your edibility. But later on, when you're outside in the garden or at a petrol station or gas station, I guess you call it, then there's a lot more hazards, it's a lot dirtier, and you've kind of got to be a bit careful. And so there we go, he has become toast.
That's awesome.
And he's toasted both sides, where he's burning one side, but that's fine.
And then you get a grade. They actually grade you on how well you toasted yourself.
I mean, you know, you've got the toast quality there. You've also got your edibility, which is kind of like, you know, can you make it to toast without basically making your bread dirty and horrible?
Make sure it tastes good. You
want
your
toast to taste good. And then we have all those,
you
know, those high scores and
you like challenge your friends with their high scores.
Yeah, exactly. We see some of the speed runs on this game, and it's like they just figured out ways to like catapult themselves across the level and land inside the toaster like with a hole in one, and they've become toast in like 20 seconds.
Wow.
And you're just like, oh, I could never even get close to that. So right now he's actually going to show us a brief little bagel, I think, which is the so right now it should be in the petrol station, I believe, which is one of the later levels.
How was designing this game from a standpoint of you know, design choices and movement choices different or similar to Surgeon Simulator?
Well, the way we kind of started with Surgeons, we wanted this. We always think of the game concept first. We don't say, oh, we're gonna like make a third-person shooter or something like that. We kind of think of a concept of something we want to play. So when it came from like Surgeon, it was we really want to have like that one-to-one manipulation of like a hand trying to do surgery, and then we kind of think of the controls afterwards and how can that best adapt to that. So in the essence of bread, we wanted the bread to flop around and feel like it was like this weirdly like sort of give it like character and life just through, you know, just through the movement of the physics and stuff. So that's kind of.
So this is not just a speed run now that we're watching here. There's actually things you have to collect as well.
Well, there's basically it's the checkpoints through the things. So it's getting through them as fast as possible. And if you mess up, you can return the checkpoint with circle, which actually it'll slice the bagel and leave it all there. So you'll always like you kind of have the remains of the bagels previous. You know, so just going through this bag of bagels, pretty much racing through this this petrol station. And this is like pretty like strict on timers. Like it's really hard to get like a maximum grade. You've got to be really quite quick. And there we go. He has completed the petrol station. That's just one of the other game modes. So we kind of just went a bit crazy with all of our sort of like bread based sort of games, game modes, and all that.
That's wonderful. So, well, any ideas to when this is going to be coming out for us?
Probably within the next couple of months.
Nice.
We're just kind of doing last minute kind of tweaks and touches.
Okay.
Fixing it up. And yeah, definitely this summer though.
Wonderful. All right. Look for I Am Bread coming this summer. Luke Williams, thank you so much.
No problem.
This was delightful.
PlayStation